The Championship are against Fabrizio Romano, and honestly, it's quite funny to see because you've got multiple Championship clubs that have all turned on Fabrizio Romano. Of course, he's a very divisive character because we all remember back in the day when transfers would get done, it would just be a complete shock. It would be out of nowhere. You get them videos on deadline day with people with the reporters, and it was absolute scenes when a transfer would go through, and it's just not like that at all, and that's just the way that the world is with social media. And a lot of people put the blame on Fabrizio Romano and say it's all his fault, he's ruining transfers, which to some extent, yes, because everything gets reported by Fabrizio Romano, everyone takes his word as it's actually going to happen. Of course, he does sometimes get stuff wrong. But if it wasn't Fabrizio Romano, it might be another journalist and somebody else, because there's multiple other good journalists. Of course, Fabrizio Romano being the main one. But in the Championship, we don't quite get as many here we goes as what we would do. And obviously, the Premier League gets like every single transfer pretty much gets the here we go. In the Championship, Fabrizio Romano, he doesn't really watch the Championship too much, because we'll discuss that in a second. He doesn't really have too much ball knowledge in terms of the Championship, but it's definitely a good thing that in the Championship you do definitely get a lot more transfers that are announced out of the blue or just reported by local reporters or whoever's their individual club's reporters do normally get stuff right with that. But as I say, for Fabrizio Romano to get involved in Championship transfer business, it happens sometimes. Like as a QPR fan, I can remember Charlie Kelman obviously leaving us. He was a Fabrizio Romano one. And I think Richard Kone was as well when he came in. But not many transfers are kind of going through Fabrizio Romano in terms of the Championship. But there's definitely some instances we're going to be looking at in this video where Championship clubs have completely screwed over Fabrizio Romano and left him with egg on his face. By the way, if you're a Championship fan and you're not subscribed to the channel, we do daily Championship content. So if you're a fan of any club in the Championship, if you wouldn't mind hitting that subscribe button, it'll be very greatly appreciated. It only takes 1 second, and let's jump straight into it. And when I say Fabrizio Romano doesn't have all the best knowledge of the Championship, this is where it kind of proves right here, because he did report one in the Championship, and it was a pretty big move in terms of how big the fee was. It was actually Middlesbrough's Finn Azaz, who of course, as we know, he transferred from Middlesbrough to Southampton towards the back end of the transfer window. And this is actually what he tweeted. He tweeted saying, Southampton have agreed a deal to sign Finn Azaz as new striker for £12 million with £3 million add-on. Well, the fact that he doesn't know what position Finn Azaz is a little bit concerning, because as far as I'm aware, I've never seen Finn Azaz play in a number 9 position. Of course, he can play out wide, and he's more of a number 10. So to call him a striker is just quite simply wrong. So that kind of proves that Fabrizio Romano, in terms of transfer knowledge, in terms of championship knowledge, he doesn't quite have that same knowledge as maybe what he does in terms of transfers in general. But then, as I say, there is teams that do have a slight issue with Fabrizio Romano, and that is one of the teams anyway, being Southampton. Southampton have not been a fan of Fabrizio Romano throughout this whole transfer window. They've been trying to one-up him this whole time, and to be honest, if you're looking at it over the balance of it, Southampton definitely won ahead of Fabrizio Romano. And you imagine maybe Southampton aren't happy with the way that he's reported stuff in the past, because of course Southampton in previous years, with them being a Premier League club, maybe he said stuff or got stuff wrong, or whatever he said about Southampton may have affected him. But whatever it is, the Southampton admin has absolutely taken it personally, because he sent multiple shots to Fabrizio Romano over the course of the transfer window. The first shot actually came with the Roselev transfer, which, to be honest, as I say, Fabrizio Romano does report on a lot of the Premier League transfers, of course, or the vast majority of them, and the big Championship teams as well, the big Championship signings, I should say, as well. You'd imagine you would put a player like Roselev into that bracket, the fact that he's played, as it says there, 94 Premier League appearances. It was a transfer that costed Southampton a few million, I believe, as well. And as well, of course, he's going from Brentford, which are a Premier League team, going to Southampton, which are a team that's going to be, or we expect to be up there come the end of the season. We would have expected one of them kind of transfers, that would be the kind of transfer in the Championship that Fabrizio Romano would be tweeting on. But as you can see here, Southampton very kindly reminded everybody that Fabrizio Romano actually tweeted about it 0 times. It's a transfer that was very much out of the blue. I think maybe some local Southampton reporters did report it, but it never actually came from Fabrizio Romano's mouth. It was one that kind of took a few people by surprise, especially me as a neutral. Like, I would have probably normally seen that as a Fabrizio Romano, and then I see that get announced, and then see that Southampton have tweeted their Fabrizio tweet 0. They have taken it absolutely personally with Fabrizio Romano right there, and as it says there, 0 tweets on that transfer, so he didn't see it coming, Fabrizio, and at the end of the day, Southampton have called him out on that one. And then you've also got one here as well, again from Southampton. If you're not aware, Southampton's announcement videos for their transfers were absolutely class. They did these kind of old school animations, or was it like, is this Mario or something? I don't know, I wasn't a big DS guy, or I wasn't a big Mario player, but I'm pretty sure it's Mario, a little cartoon animation they've got, and they added in a bunch of stuff. They added in Will Still, who was on his little mission to go and get himself another player. And as you can see there, he had Fabrizio Romano's spy tower to try and get past. As you can see, Fabrizio Romano had the light on. Will Still's not in the light. Fabrizio Romano looks away. Will Still then runs through the gap and ends up getting past the Fabrizio spy tower on the second transfer, where Southampton did completely screw over Fabrizio Romano. But this one is definitely just completely taking the mick, because the transfer was, I think it was a loan deal for George Long. It might have been a free, or I don't know, whatever it was. It was George Long, who's pretty much going to be Southampton's third choice goalkeeper, you'd imagine, because they've already got Bazunu, who's probably his first choice. You've also got McCarthy as well. And then you brought in George Long on loan as a third deal from Norwich. Fabrizio Romano was never ever going to tweet on a transfer like that, and that completely went under his radar, of course. And Southampton in the video definitely got very good kind of interaction with the retweets in that. Ended up Will Still going through the going past the Fabrizio Romano spy tower, and then ended up going and getting George Long from Norwich. I mean, it's absolutely class from Southampton, you've got to say. And then also as well, on the Finn Azaz deal, of course, as I say, Fabrizio Romano did actually tweet about that one. That one wasn't going under the radar. I don't know if he did that because Southampton had been mugging him off all transfer window. He thought he'd try and get there next time and go extra and go in on that Southampton. That Southampton transfer, I'm not so sure. But then, as you can see there, Southampton actually retweeted the tweet from Fabrizio Romano and then said that Fab's back then. Absolutely class from the Southampton admin. He got 20k likes out that. It's just been, I mean, as I say, Southampton have taken a massive win in this, because in terms of commercial, in terms of getting eyes on Southampton, on their transfers, and on Southampton in general, in terms of their social media, I think the admin's been going at Fabrizio Romano that whole time, and it's always going to get interactions because it happened multiple times. Even in the transfer window with players, I mean, Akanji came out and said he doesn't know what's going on with one of Fabrizio Romano's tweets. Victor Boniface has also said stuff about Fabrizio Romano in the transfer window. Because as I say, you've got to question stuff, especially with Garnacho in that transfer. And there was a lot of kind of things where Fabrizio Romano was just tweeting stuff just for the sake of it, and it felt like it's Garnacho and Fabrizio Romano got some kind of deal on here to keep this tweeting about it. Because, as I say, he tweets a lot of stuff and you think, is there kind of another kind of motive around it as well? Because, as I say, there's multiple players that are definitely in contact with Fabrizio Romano. Because, let's be real, he's one of the most powerful people in football these days in terms of transfers, in terms of getting players to speak out, and in terms of reports. Fabrizio Romano is the number one guy. So, of course, players are going to be very interested in Fabrizio Romano and want to kind of be on his good side, and then maybe as I say, Fabrizio Romano can stir stuff in the media and definitely start things. Not saying he'll do that in the Championship or anything like that, but in terms of big transfers, it's definitely a big talking point in terms of Fabrizio Romano there. But Southampton, of course, taking the mick. And to be honest, I thought they should have actually gone at the fact that Fabrizio Romano called him a striker. They could have very easily got that, but I mean, they got unbelievable amount of interactions. Actually, 2.3 million views on that tweet. Southampton have just been one-upping Fabrizio Romano throughout the whole of this transfer window. And then there was this one as well, which is a recent signing that Leicester made only 4 days ago, where they brought in this goalkeeper. He used to play for Real Betis, called Francisco Vietis. Sorry if I said that wrong. But he came in from Real Betis. This transfer was completely out of the blue. There was no talk of this transfer whatsoever. No local journalists, no Fabrizio Romano. And as I say, this guy just transferred to Leicester on a free agent. I imagine because obviously it's the end of the transfer window. Journalists probably thought, our work's done, the transfer window's over, maybe taking a little break. It's the international break, not taking it as seriously, not as obviously working as what they were in the transfer window. And then out of complete nowhere, they managed to get this guy over from Spain and transfer to Leicester. And then you'll question saying, who even is this guy? He's probably going to be a backup keeper at Leicester, which he probably will be. Imagine that Polish goalkeeper will still be the number one Leicester goalkeeper. But then when you look at this, Fabrizio Romano has been very active on the Leicester tweets in terms of their transfers and the lack of transfers, but when they have been interested in players, they have tweeted. When you look at this, because as you can see here, Fabrizio Romano actually tweeted about the Asmir Begovic transfer to Leicester. It was pretty much Leicester's only deal in terms of up until the end of the window. He was the only player that Leicester actually brought in until, as I say, the final few days. It was Asmir Begovic he brought in on a free transfer. As it says here, exclusive Leicester in talks with Asmir Begovic's potential option with contract terms being discussed. And of course, he ended up signing for Leicester. That was one that Fabrizio Romano absolutely nailed. But as I say, Begovic, he was at the time Leicester's second choice keeper, and now he's Leicester's third choice keeper. It's come out now because that Vietis and then the Polish keeper as well, they're Leicester's first two choice goalkeepers. So if he's tweeting about a second choice goalkeeper for Leicester, he obviously missed that one as well. So Fabrizio Romano got absolutely exposed on this Leicester transfer as well. But let me know what you think of Fabrizio Romano in the comment section down below. Obviously, as a Championship fan, he does a couple of transfers. I mean, it's kind of flattering when you see a transfer limit QPR Fabrizio Romano tweets. You think, big club. He's mentioning us. You see them retweets go, oh, whatever, QPR are massive, Fabrizio Romano's tweeting about us, or whatever club it might be. It's always interesting, obviously, when Romano tweets about it. You always get that extra little bit of interest, and obviously you think it's a little bit more real when you see a Romano tweet on a transfer that's linked to your club. But as I say, in the Championship, if we had that kind of every single transfer in terms of Romano tweeting about it, you'd feel like it would ruin the transfer window, because as I say, for big clubs and that, like, it's like every single transfer, you see it with the ESAT one. We knew every step of the way what was going on with everything, and it's like you get walked through every single transfer, what stage he's in, where the player is, he's doing this medical at this time, and all this. It's kind of like, it kind of kills the excitement when you get a new transfer. And in the Championship, you get a transfer where you get a future local journalist reporting on it, or whether you might get a little Sky Sports thing on it, but you never actually know 100% what's going on. With Romano on big transfers, you know the step of what everything's going to be happening, when a move breaks down, when a move's advancing, or everything about it, you know. So as I say, with the Championship, it's definitely a lot different, which is much better, and it's good to see. I think Southampton going out for Fabrizio Romano and kind of taking the mick, I think it's quite funny personally. Obviously, it's all done lightheartedly, and it's all for banter, which I absolutely respect from Southampton. I absolutely love that, and hopefully Romano sees the funny side to that, but I'm not so sure with the way that he reacts to some stuff anyway. But anyway, let me know what you think in the comment section down below of Fabrizio Romano and of kind of the journalism at the moment in terms of transfers, in terms of how kind of we know so much about transfers before they actually happen and before anything's actually official in terms of the club as well. So let me know what you think in the comment section down below. It's just kind of the way the social media is, I guess, these days in 2025. Anyway, if you enjoyed the video, drop a like down below. If you've watched this point, please do hit that subscribe button. It only takes 1 second. It'll be very greatly appreciated. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.